Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Yashodanandana. Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariraj Gacharya Stotrashat Shri Śrimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi. Okay, let's see. Today, we're reading from the third canto, the Status Quo, chapter 26, the fundamental principles of material nature, text number 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narum Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayad Nasta Prayashabhatrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Before reciting Śrimad Bhāgavatam, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, unto Mother Saraswati, and unto Srila Vyasadeva. And by regular attendance in Bhagavatam class and rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service until the personality of Godhead is established as an irrevocable fact. We have it, it's up here? Okay. Vishvam Atma Gatam Vyanjan Kutasto Jagadan Kruraha Swatejasa Pipativram Atma Prasvapanam Tamaha Vishvamatma Gatam Vyanjan Kutasto Jagadan Kuraha Swatejasa Pipativram Atma Prasvapanam Tamaha Vishvamatma Gatam Vyanjan Kutasto Jagadan Kruha Satejasa Pipativram Atma Prasvapanam Tamaha Vishwamatma Gatam Vyanjan Kurtasto Jagadan Kruha Satejas Pibativam Atma Prasvapanam Tamaha Vishwamatma Gatam Vyanjan Kutasto Jagadan Kruha Sapi Bhativram Savanam Tamaha Vishwamatma Gatam Ganyan Kurtasto Jagadan Krudaha Satejasapi Bhativram Atma Prasvapanam Tamaha Vishwamatma Gatam Vyanjan Kurtasto Jagadan Kruraha Satejasapi Bhativram Atma Prasvapanam Tamaha. What it is? Vishwamatma Gatam Vyanjan Kurtasto Jagadan Kruraha Satejasapi Bhativram Atma Prasvapanam Tamaha Vishwamatma Gatam Vyanjan Kutasto Jagadan Kruraha Satejasapi Bhativram Atma Prasvapanam Tamaha— the universe. Atma Gatam — contain within itself, Vyanjan, manifesting, Kutastha, unchangeable, Jagat Ankuraha, the root of all cosmic manifestations, Swatejasa, by its own effulgence, Apibat, swallowed, Tivram, dense, Adma Prasvapanam, which had covered the Mahatat, Tamaha, darkness. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Thus, after manifesting variegatedness, the effulgent Mahatattva, which contains all the universes within itself, which is the root of all cosmic manifestations, and which is not destroyed at the time of annihilation, swallows the darkness that covered the effulgence at the time of dissolution. Purport. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is ever-existing, all blissful, and full of knowledge, His different energies are also ever-existing in the dormant stage. Thus, when the Mahatattva was created, it manifested the material ego and swallowed up the darkness which covered the cosmic manifestation at the time of dissolution. This idea can be further explained. A person at night remains inactive, covered by the darkness of night. But when he is awakened in the morning, the covering of night or forgetfulness of the sleeping state disappears. Similarly, when the Mahatattva appeared after the night of dissolution, the effulgence is manifested to exhibit the variegatedness of this material world. I guess we can go with repeating. Thus, after manifesting variegatedness, the effulgent Mahat Tattva, which contains all the universes within itself, which is the root of all cosmic manifestations, and which is not destroyed at the time of annihilation, swallows the darkness that covered the effulgence at the time of dissolution. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Tam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam manglam langayate giram yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurundinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, everybody, especially Maharaj. Please forgive me for speaking and being insolent, but please pray for me and bless me that I can say something in line with the acharyas, and please correct me when I don't, if I don't. So, we are, and thank you very much everyone for coming. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Dev Ki Jai, Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Giraj Maharaj Ki Jai. We are in I believe today's, let me check. Yes, the Dvitiya of the second day of the Krishna Paksha of the waning moon of the month of Kartik. So that's exciting. So everything that we do, just by coming to Bhagavatam class today, it's like you came to Bhagavatam class for 3 years, because you get 1,000 times the benefit. So it's like 1,000 Bhagavatam classes. That I don't know who's keeping track of that, but Krishna has a notebook. He's keeping track of all the service that everyone does. And Kartik is like a transcendental sale, which generally people put on a sale. Like if a store puts on a sale, they're trying to attract new customers. So they may lose a little bit of money when they attract new customers. But for all the regular customers, they just get to keep the savings. So if we're regular customers of Bhakti, then it's very nice in the month of Kartik. We can all feel it. It's all ecstatic. Damodarastakam, very, very wonderful. In this chapter 26, the fundamental principles of material nature, we've gotten to the point where Kapila Muni, Kapila Dev, the personality of Godhead, avatar of Krishna, is describing to his mother some very intense knowledge about the world. And if we go back into chapter 25, Devahuti has asked Kapila Dev about several different things, about bhakti, about yoga, and about jnana. And in that chapter 25, Kapil has explained a little bit about bhakti yoga. And although bhakti is supreme, and we all know that without bhakti, our yoga, our karma, our jnana, all of these are powerless to give their actual result. And only when they're mixed with a little bit of bhakti, at least, then they actually give the result. And so bhakti is far supreme. So you could say, well, why does Devahuti want to learn more about these like material details? Don't we want to forget the material world? In one sense, yes, we do want to forget the material world. We want to go to the spiritual world. But someone who is really Krishna conscious, like Devahuti, or like Arjuna, or like Parikshit Maharaj, or like Prabhupada, they see Krishna's lotus feet the same as Krishna's shining face. So every canto of the Bhagavatam is Krishna, and someone who loves Krishna, who is Krishna conscious, they love all those parts. And so someone who's like Devahuti, she's still inquisitive about karma, about jnana, and about yoga, because those are all parts of Krishna's system. It's a whole ladder of consciousness to help raise people up to the highest level. So even if you know about the highest level, even if you're on the highest level, you may be inquisitive about the lower level, because one reason is that the Lord wants to help everyone get to that level. And so if we want to help the Lord, we should know about these. For people on a lower level of consciousness, how to engage them. If they're on such a low level, then maybe they need karma, or maybe they need something else. Maybe then they're a little more elevated, a little more detached. They can start doing yoga, or maybe they can start going on the process of jnana. But ultimately, we want to get them to bhakti. That's the highest stage. So, according to her questions, Kapila is now answering and giving a complete description of all these details, this knowledge about the world, and he's separating it out. Even though the world is itself just like existing, someone with intelligence can discriminate on all the different parts. And so Kapila Dev has discriminated all these different parts. And he describes hearing about this Sankhya, hearing of this Jnana, gives you 3 benefits. At the start of the chapter he said this. It gives you freedom from the modes of material nature, 1. It gives you perfection of self-realization, 2. And it cuts the knots of attachment to everything material, number 3. So number 1, it gives you freedom from the modes. You understand how the modes are just creating everything, and you understand how to go beyond the modes. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, by performing bhakti, then that way you can go beyond the modes. And then attaining perfection of self-realization. By doing Sankhya and understanding what the material world is, it's very easy to understand that neti, this is not you, this is not you. You're not the body, you're not the mind, you're not the false ego. And by understanding that you're not those things, it's very easy then, it makes it much more clear of how to transcend them. Okay, we're not these bodies, well then what bodies are we? And then it gets to the point of cutting the knot of attachment to material things. Like, if I understand exactly what something is and its constituent parts, then it's very easy to become detached for it. Like seeing a material item and its constituent parts makes it very easy. Okay, so like there's that funny story of liquid beauty, where there's some prostitute that someone was very lusty after her, and she said, okay, I'll fulfill your desire, just come after a few days, I'll give you all my beauty into buckets. And then she ended up taking a lot of laxatives and purgatives and different things, and all her beauty came into the buckets. And like the real beauty, if you look at someone like a movie star and you think, oh well, they're so beautiful, actually it's just skin that's maybe nicely fine-tuned a little bit, but under it there's fat and bile and bones and blood and mucus and pus and all these things that when we see them by themselves, it's like disgusting. Like, oh, there's blood on that. Ew, get away from that. Or like, you've got, if someone cuts their hair and shaves their hair, then and it's just sitting on a pile in the bathroom, then it looks disgusting and you get upset. Or when someone has like a nicely shaped beard and it's just the right way, then you're like, okay, that looks kind of cool. But really, when you dissect something, it makes it very easy to become detached from it, rather than seeing it in its just form. So that's 3 benefits: your freedom from the modes, self-realization, and detachment from the material. And so then the Lord is talking about how different, like if we're talking about sambandha jnana, that's the relationship between Purusha and Prakriti, or it's the relationship of 3 things. We have the Jiva, we have the Purusha, which is the Lord, the Jiva, which is all the souls, and Prakriti, which is nature, which is the dead matter. So what happens, the Lord's interaction with dead matter, that's just the Lord's Leela. And as explained in a few verses earlier, it's not, our interaction with matter is not our Leela. The Lord decides to incarnate. Okay, I want to come as Kapila Muni. He comes. Okay, I want to come and help my devotees, so he comes. I want to go have these pastimes, so he chooses to come, and he has his self-effulgent, self-same body that he incarnates with. It's not some other kind of body. When the jiva comes in the material world, whatever desires they may have, they're forced. Okay, you have this desire, it doesn't matter. You still have to be born as an amoeba in stool. And after that, you have to be born as some insect. And after that, then after so many 8 million births, okay, now you're finally qualified, we'll give you a human birth. But you don't get to decide what human birth it is. Depending on your past deeds, you get what you deserve. And so, but we can say, oh, I took birth as a pig and that was just my Leela, but that's just word juggling, and it's really your suffering. So that's our interaction with Prakriti, is like that. We're just offered different forms of Prakriti and covered over by those different forms. And then we falsely identify with that covering, and we think that we're the doer. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasheha hankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. I thought everyone would start yelling that verse. Anyways, me and Param Brahma got it. So that Prakriti is just giving all these varieties of things, and once you're covered by it, then you think you're that, you think you're the doer, but really you're just covered and bewildered by the false ego. And so how does this false ego, how does all these coverings come about? That's what is really being talked about in these last couple verses. And in this whole chapter, as like a kind of overview, Kapila Muni will go through all these different sankhya of the material world. So he's telling us about, he first told us just the summary, like we heard a verse maybe a week or two ago, how you have 24 elements. I think Param Brahmapura was giving that class. So you have your 5 gross senses, your taste, your seeing, your touching, your hearing, your smelling. That was 5? seeing? Yeah, seeing. Okay, most of your senses are in your head, so it's pretty easy. You just go around your head. And then what do those 5 things do? Those 5 senses come in contact with the 5 sense objects. So you smell a smell, you hear a sound, you taste a taste, you touch something that has something to touch back. And so there's 5 kind of sense objects or tan mantras, 5 types of things that interact with your sense organs to give you a sense perception. Then we have 5 senses of gathering knowledge and 5 senses of action. And I didn't write down the 5 senses of gathering knowledge, but let's see if we can come up with them. Does anyone remember any one of them? Maharaj. The eyes. Okay, okay, I guess it's like those are just like the senses that actually do it, and then there's our perception of it, which is our okay. But then the knowledge is the 5 senses of action. Those are probably a little easier. I remember some of them. Yeah, your hands, your legs, your mouth, your 2 organs below the waist. One for making things come out. Both for making things come out, I guess, yeah. And then our 4 subtle senses. Because they're subtle because you can't see them, you can't take a picture of it, you can just conceptualize it. But someone with very sharp intelligence, like Kapila Muni, or they can explain how these are 4 separate different things, but they exist in a subtle sense, in a non-material or non-gross sense. So these subtle things are the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, and I guess contaminated consciousness, similar to false ego, but sometimes there was a conversation at the end of your class. It's like sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, depending on what Muni is giving their Sankhya. They may put those into different elements. So that makes 24 elements. Then we have our 25th element, which is time, that's like, because in the spiritual reality, time is much different. Here, time is like the overarching factor that's devouring everything, Krishna says in the Gita. And it does 3 things, Kapila Muni says. 1, time makes the jivas scared of death. And it's said like in the places where there's no measurement of time, like we know time because of the rising and the setting of the sun. It's said that the rising and the setting of the sun decrease the life of everyone, except, does anyone know? Yeah, and what does that mean in English? Yeah, Uttama Shloka means Krishna, who's the Lord who is praised with the Uttama Shlokas. The Uttama, the best shlokas, kind of verses or hymns or rap songs, bars, as they would say today. And so he was praised with the most eloquent words, because he's the most amazing thing. So if you're glorifying him, then you can escape death. But otherwise, everyone else, death is like you're like a rat, and death is coming like a cat, and one day it's going to catch you. But for a devotee, we're like a little kitten, and we're just serving the Lord, and then at the time of death, the mother cat can pick up the kitten, and there's no problem. And Yukul Kishore Prabhu gave a very nice class, and we can hear so many different devotees tell about how death, when you experience the death of a devotee, it's much, much different than experiencing the death of someone that wasn't devoted. So that's one thing. It makes time, there's 3 things. It makes you scared of death. 2, it agitates the material nature, the gunas, to lead to creation. So it's progressing, things have to start from something, when any material thing is created, it's created, 1. It goes through 6 transformations through time. Then it grows, then it stays the same, produces byproducts, it dwindles, and then it's gone. And we can see that, like, one of the favorite pictures that Vaisheshika Prabhu likes to show people, if you show them the Bhagavad Gita, the changing bodies. Where are you in all of this? That's like just the something, one material object, the body, going through time, going through so many different bodies, and then finally, at one point it wasn't there, and then at one point it's going to be gone. So time agitates the gunas to lead to their combination in their creation and destruction and everything. And another thing about time is that that's also the form of the Lord. Krishna says, "Time I am, destroyer of all things," like in the Bhagavad Gita. So the Lord exists as time. He's the one empowering time. He's the one pushing everything. Because ultimately, what's the whole point of the material world? The whole point of the material world is not a resort, all expenses paid resort for the jivas to just enjoy. It's a punishment actually for the jivas who aren't acting in their proper capacity, in their proper reality. So they come here, they try to exist separately from the Lord, which is impossible, but the Lord makes it possible. But He only makes it possible for some time. And when that time runs out, the world goes back into dissolution, goes back where everything comes back into one thing, and then everything goes to sleep. And then at some point, the Lord activates it again. So that's where we get to. And our verse now, where we're talking about, in verse 19 was yesterday, and verse 20, we talk about the Mahatattva. So the Lord impregnates Prakriti, and from that the Mahatattva comes, and it's like the material universe would be sleeping in this dissolution, and then it awakens. And so the Mahatattva is this first kind of transformation from Prakriti. Then it goes into so many other transformations, ultimately becoming the entire material world. And in detail, Kapila Muni will describe all these 25 elements. He's kind of just giving, right now in these first 20 verses, he's giving an overview, but this whole chapter is, how many verses is it? It's 72 verses. And so he's going to go into very, very big detail about the different devatas, over the different sense objects, over all this different ahankar, manas, buddhi. So we'll have after finishing this chapter and finishing studying this, we'll have a very clear idea of what all these Sankhya things are. When you split the material world up into its different elements, we'll have a very clear idea of what each category is. And so, but this Mahatattva is the first transformation, like we hear in the Brahma Samhita, that when the Lord wants to create, he agitates Prakriti in the form of his glance, and that glance, you could say that glance is time, or they say it's Shambhu. In Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives very hard to understand language, difficult, thick language in his translation. Maybe we can, the person embodying the material causal principle vis-a-vis the great Lord of this mundane world, Shambhu, in the form of the male generating organ, is joined to his female consort, the limited energy, as the efficient causal principle. The Lord of the world, Mahavishnu, is manifest in him by his subjective portion in the form of his glance. Basically just means the same thing. The Lord glances at Prakriti, and in that glance, because the reason why it's the Lord does not, if the Lord, he's transcendental to material nature. Material nature is like his shadow. He does not come in contact with it. However, when he wants to agitate it or do something, if you take the Lord and you put him in contact with material nature, that's what's known as the tattva of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is not exactly a jiva. He's more than the jiva, but he's less than the Lord. He's not exactly the Lord either. So when the Lord is in combination with the material nature, that's Lord Shiva, or Rudra, or Maheshvar, Shambhu, so many different names. And so in this form, then Mahavishnu is glanced, impregnated the Prakriti with so many jivas, and and agitating in the form of time and with Maheshwar, with Shiva, and then from that the Mahatattva is born, and then from the Mahatattva so many things get created, which we'll hear about coming in the next few verses. And I think that's about all I have to say about the Mahatattva. And because it's Kartik, I wanted to say a little bit about Damodar Astakam, and then maybe Maharajas they probably know more. I know especially Chandrasekhar Maharaj has like studied this in detail and like knows these things about the Mahatattva and the Pradhan, and it's all a little bit confusing sometimes, so perhaps they could illuminate that. But we can remember when we're going to sing this bhajan probably multiple times a day, every day, so it's good to like know what it's about. So I was reading or hearing from Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, and he was kind of summarizing the Tika of Sanatan Goswami, and so we have this bhajan about the Damodarastakam, about Lord Damodar. So it starts out, Namam Ishvaram Satchid Ananda Rupam. And in this line is talking about the Tattva, the wonderful Tattva of the Lord. So first, Nama Ishvaram. So that's like a Mangalacharan in any kind of spiritual undertaking, in any writing. There's always some sort of Mangalacharan. So here we have 8 verses. It's not very long writing. So he has 2 words, Namam Ishvaram. So you're paying obeisances to the Ishvar. So this is talking about a little boy that's getting tied up and punished by his mother. But we should understand this is not an ordinary boy. This is Ishvara, the controller of everything. He's the one who... so we're hearing about how Mahavishnu is glancing, and where is it? Yeah, so Mahavishnu is doing this glancing and agitating and creating this Mahatattva. But the Mahatattva is produced only when the subjective plenary portion of Krishna, vis-a-vis the prime divine avatar Mahavishnu, who is the subjective portion of Sankarshan, himself the subjective portion of Krishna, is actually approaching towards Maya. So, the portion of the portion of the portion of Krishna is responsible for creating the sum total of the entire material universes, the Pradhan and the Mahatattva, and transforming that. So that's Namam Ishvaram Satchidananda Rupam. Also, we should continue. It's also Tattva about the Lord. The Lord is Satchidananda. He's eternal. He's full of knowledge. He's not just some ignorant boy just being punished by his mother because he's doing something bad. He's fully in control of everything. So this is his pastime. This is not some like random thing. And Ananda, and it's completely bliss. Like we heard, by him being naughty, he drowned the inhabitants of Gokul in waves and in oceans of ecstasy. So Namam Ishvaram Satchidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam. Is that right? Lasat Kundalam. So that's talking about, of course, everything can be talked about for a long time, but this is what Sanatan Goswami and vis-a-vis Gauranga Darshan Prabhu speaking about. Lasat Kundalam is talking about his earrings. So Krishna has these shark-shaped earrings that are swaying to and fro, and they're called, like they're shining, lasat. Well, why are they shining? Normally, one thing is that Krishna, he is the ornament of his ornaments. Generally, someone wears ornaments like we're wearing tosi beads, or many people wear earrings, or like a nose ring, or so many bangles, or different necklaces, and different things. Everyone wears different clothes and different ornaments on their clothes. So generally, ornaments are there to beautify what thing they're going on. But for Krishna, because he's the most beautiful thing, whatever ornaments go on him, those ornaments get glorified. So the earrings are shining because they're glorifying Krishna. They're glorified by being on Krishna, and they're actually like, because they're high up, they're like shining more than all the other ornaments. And so Krishna's, all the other ornaments are jealous. Even the gopis are jealous because the earrings always kiss Krishna's cheeks, whereas they have to make some sort of excuse and do some hiding and different things like that, go out into the forest before they can have that. So Lasat Kundalam, help me out. Yashoda Bilo, say it loudly. Yeah, Yashoda Bio Lukala Davamanam. So Yashoda, now it's talking about Mother Yashoda. So this is now talking about Krishna's family, Krishna's associates, how wonderful they are. So because of Mother Yashoda, even though he's Ishvar, even though he's Satchidananda, even though he's the element of time that we're talking about that's making the jivas fear death, even though he makes death even fear, he makes fear personified scared. He is Bia, which is meaning scared. He is running away, scared of Mother Yashoda. And this is also glorifying the devotion, because Mother Yashoda is not, doesn't want to, hurt the Lord. Out of her love and affection, she wants to make sure that the Lord grows up, because she's in the complete Vatsalya Bhav, thinking that, due to Yoga Maya, she's the mother of the Lord, and that she needs to properly raise the Lord. So she doesn't want him to be naughty and messing with things. So she decides if he gets a good punishment, then he'll grow up to be good. Like they say, spare the rod, spoil the child. So thinking like this, and Gokule Brajamanam, that where are they? They're in Gokule. Gokul is a place where there's many goes. The gopas, the cowherds, the gopis, the cowherd girls, and mothers, and there's the goes, the cows, and of course the calves with the cows, and this is just the place where Krishna can then very wonderfully manifest his most wonderful leelas and different things. It can only happen when there's such a manifestation with these ingredients. Gokule Brajamanam, and then Param, so he's getting caught from behind by Mother Yashoda, because Mother Yashoda is just showing, like in the Isopanishad, we hear the Supreme Lord can outrun anyone. He doesn't even need to run, but everyone can never reach him. The yogis in the Brahma Samhita, the yogis traveling at the speed of mind for thousands of lifetimes can only approach the toenail, the rays of light coming from the tips of his toenails. So like this, Krishna is impossible to approach by anyone. He's faster than everyone. But what's happening here, somehow his mother, who he's scared of, he actually got caught. And actually Krishna was naughty. What he was doing, he thought, okay, my mother Yashoda is a queen of Vrindavan, so I'm going to run and I'm going to go into the streets, because because she's a queen, she doesn't want the people of Nandagram seeing her run and trying to catch me, and so because she doesn't want people to see that, I'll be able to easily get away. But besides that, Paramarstam Atyanta Dutya Gopya, something like that. Yeah. So, but she didn't care. And in the descriptions of this Leela in Śrimad Bhāgavatam, one of the things it's describing is Mother Yashoda's beauty. That however, even though she's such a beautiful queen, she's giving it her all. She doesn't care. She's going to chastise this boy and make sure that he gets the proper upbringing. So she's fully running and saying, like, the flowers from her hair are falling out. She's so much sweating, and all her clothes are getting messed up. And so, because of her devotion, she can actually catch the Lord. And that's the same of the moral of the story is when finally she's able to tie the Lord. It's because of the actual love. That Krishna can be conquered by love and not by, like we were saying in the beginning of the class, jnana and karma are not going to do anything for us if they're not mixed with any bhakti. And the only reason they have results a little bit is because they're mixed with bhakti, and they can purify us and lead us to bhakti. So that's why Krishna has included them in his bhakti ladder, in his consciousness ladder. But with love, that's the highest consciousness, and that even the Lord can be subdued. So that's the point of able to catch up to her. And the last line, Oh, I already, okay, okay, that's the last line. Okay, so that's the first verse of Damodarastakam. I mean, even Bhakti Vikas Maharaj was giving a class, and he said he one time attended a class where they were giving a kata on this, and for 30 days they spoke on the first word, Nama. So similarly, any word can be expanded upon so much, and we can gain a lot of insight. But I think now I'd like to open up, if someone could grab the microphone and, oh, it's right behind you actually, Jainand is there. And maybe if Maharaj or Maharaj would like to say anything to help further illuminate us on either the Mahatattva or something about Kartik or anything that came to your mind. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna. If you have anything to say, I thank you for coming.
Of course, this is a very philosophical understanding. Actually, Prabhupada gave a lecture on this verse.
Ah, I didn't check that. I should have checked.
You know that?
Normally I check that, but today I was
It's very,
a little rush.
of course, the deep understanding is there. Few things I would like to. Prabhupada is telling that Krishna is ready to help us, provided we become little anxious. Shraddha. To create this Shraddha, little faith, we are trying to open these branches all over the world. People who are taking advantage of this. Little inclination will help, but there must be inclination. We are not dull stone, we have no power. We have got little power. That little independence is there because we are part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is fully independent, and we, being minute part and parcel of Krishna, we have got also little independence. You don't forget this. Misuse of this independence is the cause of our material existence. Misuse. So still Krishna is so kind. He comes. Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha duskritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. If we simply become little inclined, Svarbhavapasya dharmasya, little inclined, then Krishna will help us. Taktva sadharmam charanambujam hare. If somebody is little inclined, out of sentiment or understanding, he gives up everything. Swadharma, that is the primary requisition. Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja. Mean everyone has got particular type of occupational duty that is called sadharma. Generally, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they have got particular type of duty. Krishna said, you give up your Brahmana dharma, Kshatriya dharma, Vaishya dharma, Shudra dharma, Hindu dharma, Muslim dharma, Sarva dharma. If you are little inclined, that is called, that is explained in Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Taktva sadharma. He gives up all other duties. I am no more any follower of any dharma. I am followers of Krishna's lotus feet. This determination is there, everything is possible. So this is a very nice, a very important sloka Prabhupada is quoting. There is a verse, Aradito yadi hari tapasa tatatjim. This is from Narada Pantaratra. If you take shelter of the lotus feet of Hari, Krishna, Aradita, and worship it, Aradito yadi, then there is no more necessity of austerity, finance, and so many other things. Simply this is required. Prabhupada is telling that after undergoing your religious principles and ritualistic ceremonies and austerities, penances, fully executing the occupational duty, everything is done, but Naradito Hari, but you could not understand how to worship Hari. So tapasa takim, then what is the use of your tapasya? There is no use. It is simply waste of time. Sramayevai kevalam. This is confirmed in everywhere. Dharma svanushtita punsam. You are executing your occupational duty very nicely. Suppose if you are, from material point of view, you are a big businessman, big medical practitioner, big engineer, or anything. Everyone has got some occupational duty. So if you are doing duties very nicely, dharma, very nicely you are doing, pumsa, but you have no Krishna conscious. You are functioning your duties, occupational duties very nicely, but you do not develop Krishna consciousness. Vishwakshena katasudha. So if you do not become interested in hearing about Krishna, Rama, or there are so many names, Krishna, Govinda, Narayana, he has got many forms. So Krishna means including all these forms. Vishwakshena. If you do not get interest in hearing about Supreme Lord, Srama Evai Kevalam. Anyway, so this is a proper lecture.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah. That's Prabhupada. Actually, the last class I gave, Prabhupada gave a nice class. I should have checked this time, but for some reason I didn't. But anyway, so... Wonderful. So we'll hear more. Stay tuned. We just heard about the Mahatattva, but we'll hear about all the 24 elements, including time, including the false ego, and everything that we may have had questions about. And Kapil Dev's he's gonna lay it all out for us. Om Tat Sat Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripasinubheva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namaha. Yeah, when I give class, I mostly look, but for some reason today,